I gotta tell you, one of the things that I struggle with the most is watching people, especially other coaches and nutritionists, perpetually berate other people for eating foods that they deem as bad. These will be the same people who tell me that I'm setting a bad example because I show myself eating and drinking things that are fun. Like, somehow I'm the bad guy because I tell somebody that it's okay to have a piece of cake at your kid's birthday party, while they're the good guy when acting like a drill sergeant and making people feel like crap because they decided to have a donut. And I just can't disagree more with this at all. Like, I think it's good to be able to see that you can include things you enjoy, have it be a part of your life, and still get and stay in shape. This is why I'm always putting stories up of me having some drinks with my wife and having something fun to eat, so you can see this. And I'm just so sick of the unhealthy relationships with food that these people help create. And in fact, I argue are oftentimes the reason you can't get and stay in shape, because it feels impossible to only eat clean all the time for the rest of your life. And if you agree with this, help me out. Let's get this in front of as many people as possible. Hit that like button and let's help get this message out, because this is something that is still plaguing not only the nation, but the world, and we need to change this. And quite frankly, well, I'll probably get even more hate for this, but you know what? I don't even care. But I think all food, literally all of it, is good unless you have some sort of condition, like you have an allergy or something. Otherwise, it is good. I think when we typically look at foods as bad, what we're really referring to are foods that are calorie dense, which makes it easier to put you into a calorie surplus and therefore gain fat. But that doesn't inherently make that food bad, it just makes it easier to overeat on, and is often also low in micronutrients. But as a whole, calories are good. Calories literally only tell you one thing, and that is how much energy your body gets from what you eat or drink. Now, there is something called the thermic effect of food, which is basically how many calories your body burns processing the food you eat, and this is where differences from things like donuts and sugary foods and like broccoli and chicken come from, because they have higher thermic effects of food, so your body burns more calories, but the calories in are the same and you still extract that energy from it. And I think the thing that's usually missing is context with your diet. For instance, obviously this is an extreme example now, but let's just say somebody got lost in the wilderness and they hadn't ate for a few weeks now, and they come across a Twinkie that's still wrapped and laying around, and you know those things last forever, right? Well, would it be bad for them to eat a Twinkie? Would that be unhealthy? No, that would be incredibly healthy for them to get those calories. In that instance, not eating a Twinkie could literally kill them, whereas eating it could help them survive. Now, obviously, that's probably not the scenario you're gonna be in, but even in the context of an everyday normal life diet, is it really gonna be bad and unhealthy for you to have one donut, fit it into your normal calorie budget, and just move on? Hell no. Is eating a diet of nothing but donuts gonna be a problem? Yeah, probably not a good idea. But even then, what I'm gonna do now to try to help illustrate my point is show you several real life examples of people who went on more extreme diets where they ate a large percentage of their calories from foods that we typically look at as bad, different types of junk food, who were still able to lose plenty of weight, and on top of that, even increase their health markers. And the reason I want to do this is to help show you that you don't have to be afraid of certain foods. So let's start with a guy that became nicknamed the McDonald's Diet Guy. This person ate nothing but McDonald's for 6 straight months. He put himself on a 2,000 calorie diet and also went for a 45-minute walk every day, which if you watch my videos, you know how much I love and encourage going on walks. And in those 6 months, not only did he lose 56 pounds in total, seeing a drastic change in body composition, but he also saw his cholesterol drop from 249 to 190, and his blood pressure was within a normal range as well. The reason I love this one so much is because so many people watched the old documentary Super Size Me, where the guy ate nothing but McDonald's, had to supersize his fries every time they asked him to, and just gained tons of weight and got sick and unhealthy. And it just was taken to the extreme, force feeding himself to the point of feeling sick, literally throwing up sometimes because he ate so much, and he also completely stopped exercising. So it's like, yeah, you're eating like 5,000 plus calories a day and not exercising, of course you're gonna gain weight. Well, this shows you can have McDonald's and still lose weight if you just account for the calories and also live an active lifestyle. The next example I want to talk about was a guy who goes by the Twinkie Diet Guy, and he was a professor of human nutrition at Kansas State who wanted to show that you could include some junk food in your diet and still lose weight. I think the story was that his students just didn't believe him, so he wanted to physically show them. them. So he made a large part of his diet things like Hostess and Little Debbie snacks and Doritos and Oreos and sugary cereals, which made up about 2/3 of his diet, and the other third came from basically protein shakes and some vegetables. And what he did was he limited himself to 1,800 calories, which he already knew going in that his rough maintenance calories was 2,600 calories. And in the end, he lost 27 pounds. I believe it was in 10 weeks, saw a 20% decrease in his total cholesterol, increases in his HDL cholesterol, which is your good cholesterol, so a higher number is a good thing, and reduced his triglycerides by 39%. Now, this next example was one that I actually watched kind of as it was happening. This is probably my favorite because I'm an ice cream guy. It's probably my favorite food. And this guy who has a channel on YouTube, it's not really active anymore, but the name is Abs and Ice Cream. And he documented, like literally documented every single day. He showed himself eating the ice cream. Nobody could say like, well, you can say you're doing anything, but that doesn't mean you're actually doing it. No, he actually showed himself eating all this ice cream every single day for 100 days. And what he did was eat 2,000 calories worth of ice cream and 500 calories worth of whey protein every single day. That's all he did. So literally 80% of his calories came from ice cream. And what happened? He lost 32 pounds and saw a decrease in cholesterol and an increase in HDL, which again is the good cholesterol, and he also saw improvements in triglycerides. You may have heard of Jordan Syatt, someone who I highly recommend following if you're not following him, and he wanted to do the same thing, show that you could eat these foods and still get results. And he's a pretty small guy to begin with, so he didn't get a whole lot of calories. And he went for a whole month documenting eating a Big Mac every single day, and he ended up losing 7 pounds. I don't think he did a health panel or anything like that, but regardless, it shows you can lose weight eating things like Big Macs. Sophia Lee actually won her pro card eating a Snickers bar every single day because again, she wanted to show that you could get into phenomenal shape even eating things like candy bars. And one of the things you have to understand here, which I'm going to touch on in a minute, is just because you can eat these things doesn't mean it's a great idea. And what she said was by the end, she actually didn't like that she had to eat the Snickers bar anymore because it's just not very filling, and she would rather use those calories to eat something that was more nutrient dense and filling to not feel quite as hungry. And that's some of the give and take, but the point is a Snickers bars every day ended up getting her pro card doing it. Hell, how about just taking me for an example? So I'd gotten in pretty good shape around 10 or so years ago, but I was a super clean eater, just thought that all junk food was bad. And eventually I just felt like it wasn't worth it. It was just too hard to sustain. And I ended up going the opposite direction. Got up to about 210 pounds, and I don't even have any photos or anything of me that big. This video I have, I think, is around 200 or 195 pounds. Thankfully, I discovered flexible dieting and learning how to include foods that I enjoy into my diet, and ended up going from that 210 pounds down to 177, 178, something like that pounds. And I was eating ice cream almost every single day doing it because that's my favorite food. And then down the road, going to a more extreme level of lean, I decided to do a physique show when I turned 40 years old and got down to stage lean levels with no food restriction. But regardless, the thing that I love about these is that a lot of them documented health markers too, because so many people will say, well, yeah, you can lose weight eating that junk, but it's not healthy. Well, if it's unhealthy, then why did all their cholesterols and blood markers and everything get better? What people don't seem to understand is it's not necessarily the exact foods you eat, not that it doesn't matter at all, but it's more how much body fat you carry that determines your health markers. And if you're obese and then get down to a normal body weight, that's going to be healthy regardless of what you eat to get there. Now, by no means am I saying that you should eat like these people. In fact, every single one of them at the end said the exact same thing. I did this to prove a point, to show that you can lose weight and get healthier eating these foods, but I would not recommend you do this. You don't want to make the majority of your diet low nutrient processed foods, things that typically would be considered junk. You want to fill your diet of mostly whole foods, nutrient dense foods, minimally processed foods, and then be okay with eating some other things in moderation, because trust me, just eating nothing but junk isn't going to do so great. Like at first, when I first started doing the more flexible dieting approach, I did that. I ate as much junk as humanly possible. And a lot of people do this because like all the stuff that was off limits no longer is. So you just want to eat as much as you can. Well, you don't feel so good or perform so good doing that. Eventually you learn that you do want to eat cleaner, but also not look at foods as either good or bad, because that places morality on food and that causes a whole host of other problems psychologically. We always tend to only look at what we physically need to do and overlook the importance of human psychology when it comes to getting in shape. When you look at foods as good or bad and like you shouldn't have some, eventually you're probably going to be in a position, whether it's at a party or you just lack willpower or you're tired or unmotivated or whatever it may be, now you're going to eat that food. Now you feel like you're off plan. There's no point. Your diet starts again tomorrow. You have to get in as much as you humanly possibly can right now, eat till you feel sick, and then eat some more. And this just causes a whole other set of problems. And this is where the binge restrict mentality can come from. And that's the whole point of using a more flexible approach with your nutrition. You get to choose what you eat and don't eat, and it's never off limits, which makes it easier to accept. You have a tendency to rebel against things that you're told you can't do. If you're told you can't have that ice cream, you're more likely to want to eat that ice cream. Whereas if you say, I could have that ice cream, but right now it's probably not the best choice for me, I'm going to choose not to have it, but I know it's always there and I can have it whenever I want. That's a completely different ballgame. And I think what really helps for a lot of people is just including some things that you do enjoy in moderation. It helps with adherence. If you allow yourself to have some of this stuff occasionally, you don't feel like you need to completely blow it out. And it's just so dangerous to label foods as bad. And while some people will say, well, just look at food as fuel to help, which, yeah, I mean, it is. It's not necessarily a bad way to look at it, but it's not just fuel. It's also celebrations, it's anniversaries, it's birthdays and get-togethers and holidays. Food is a huge part of our life, and it's not just to help get in shape. It's everything. We need to be able to enjoy our lives and create balance. Now, I showed you several real-life examples of people who have lost weight eating junk food. But if you know me, I like to go into the science of things, but this video is already long enough, so I'm not going to jump into that. But I do have a video that goes into more detail, especially about sugar and like high GI versus low GI foods, and it goes into a lot of data surrounding this, and I think you may be pretty surprised with what the data has to say. So make sure you check out this top video next, otherwise I think you'll like this bottom video instead, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.